Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a really fun slider surprise shaker card. Now before I get into the card making, there's two things I want to say. Number one, I'm sorry for my voice. I have been so sick and I'm feeling better now, but my voice obviously not sounding so hot. Number two is I am sharing a more simplified version of this card over on the My Favorite Things YouTube channel today. So if you prefer more simplicity in your card making, you can check that out. But this card to me is not overly complicated. I'm going to walk you through it, and you're even going to see part of a bonus card that I'll share a photo of at the end of this as well. So I am starting out with some Abandoned Coral Distress Oxide ink and an ink blending tool and this Cascading Scallop stencil. And I am using a piece of coral colored cardstock. This is actually a textured cardstock, and I'm blending on some of this ink using my heaviest hand at the bottom of this cardstock and working up to a lighter hand. Now from the top of the cardstock, I'm going to take this ink dauber and I'm going to blend on some unicorn white pigment ink from Hero Arts. And once again, my heaviest hand towards the edge of the cardstock, blending with a lighter hand down into meet that abandoned coral ink. And this is going to give me a really cool ombre effect on this panel. Now, once I achieve the look I'm going for here, I can kind of blend over that seam to make those colors blend a little bit better. But I'm going to just flip this up and have a look, and I like it. But it needs some sparkle, in my opinion, because you cannot have a mermaid card without sparkle. So I'm going to leave my stencil in place, and I'm going to protect my work surface. And I'm going to take the Sukin Sparkle Shimmer Spritz. And I'm going to shake the heck out of this because it's been sitting in my drawer for quite a while. And once I get this all shook up, like Elvis here, I'm going to make sure all that mica is removed from the bottom as I shake it. Make sure it's kind of incorporated into the liquid. And then I'm going to start spraying the heck out of this panel. Now, I'm misting from quite a ways above because I don't want to get this too wet. I don't want my ink to start moving. So it's more like several light mists rather than heavy sprays. And then I can remove my stencil and I can heat set this. Now, I'm going to show you how sparkly this is. But keep in mind, in real life, it is way more sparkly. And I love this Sparkle Shimmer Spritz. I haven't used it in a while, but this is a great way to add shimmer to the entire surface of a card. So once I have that all ready to go, I'm going to use this Slider Surprise die. This is brand new from My Favorite Things for June 2019. I'm going to hold it in place on that pattern where I want to die cut it. And I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. And this is going to give me the portion of my card that's going to create an interactive slider surprise. And underneath that slider surprise, I'm going to create a shaker portion. Now you can do this without the shaker portion and it has a few less steps. This is really not complicated, I promise you, but I thought this was just such a fun idea, and it did take me kind of some thinking to figure out how to do this. So once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and create a card base. Now this is a top folding A2 size card base. It's made from Neenah Solar White cardstock. So I've taken a piece of 4 1/4 by 11 inch Neenah Solar White heavyweight cardstock. I've scored it at 5.5 inches, and then I folded it over and reinforced that fold with my bone folder. And now I'm going to take some Post-it tape and I'm just doing some masking around the edges. Now I want the edges of this card to stay white, but I want you to be able to see some color when you slide up to that shaker portion. Now I am using this die here. This is from the pop-up wiper card components die set, new from My Favorite Things. It creates like this wave border, and I'm die cutting some masking paper here, and I'm going to create a little wave border on this shaker card. Now I will say this, I didn't actually use this background for my shaker card. I thought it was a little intense. But I wanted to leave this in because I did make a bonus card with it using a lot of the same materials, and you'll see a photo of that at the end, or you can head over to my blog for some more still shots and information there. But I'm blending on some Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide ink starting from the bottom, and I have that little wave mask in place. And once I get my peacock feathers blended up to that portion, I'm going to take the other part of this mask, the bottom part, and I'm going to mask off what I've already ink blended, and I'm going to remove that upper mask. That's going to allow me to ink blend a skyline. And I decided I didn't want it to show at the top either, so I went ahead and put a piece of masking tape there. And I'm blending on some worn lipstick and some mustard seed ink. Now this creates the most beautiful sunset. I really am dreaming of Hawaii right now. We are supposed to go next week. We've all been sick and we've had a kid in the hospital. We're all good, don't worry. But it's been quite a week and we're just trying to get to vacation right now. So we're all just trying to survive so we can get to vacation. And by the time this goes live, we're actually going to be back from vacation. But I want to let you know, we're all okay. We're all good and we're going to get there. But at the point that I was making this, I was really dreaming of Hawaiian sunsets and being a mermaid because I'd really like to escape this week right now. So I'm going over where those two colors meet a couple of times to make sure that I get a really good blend from that worn lipstick to the mustard seed. And once I have my blend the way I want it, I can remove all of my masks and I have this really cool ocean sunset scene here. Now, like I said, I felt like this was too intense for this mermaid card front that I created. So I didn't actually use it on this card, but I will do something similar. So when you die cut the slider surprise panel here, you'll have 3 score lines. And the main thing to remember is that middle score line, you want that to be your mountain fold. So you want that to pop up. The other 2 score lines, you want to go in the opposite direction. So you want those to be your valley folds. And if you can always remember that your middle, your M for middle is your mountain fold, and you fold the other 2 in the opposite direction, it's easy as can be. So we're going to pause here because my son's baseball glove is ready and I have to respond to the guy who was relacing it. And then we're going to continue moving on. I took another card base here, A2 size top folding card base. I masked off the sides and I went in with a much lighter hand with just some Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide ink and blended that up from the bottom to create a more simplified background for this slider surprise. I just felt like with the shaker components and all those mermaid scales on the front, the waves and everything were just too much for the inside of this card. So I just wanted to create a light kind of wash of color behind what's going to ultimately be my shaker portion of the card. Now for the slider surprise, you also need a piece of cardstock that measures 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, and there is a die included that will help you create this, but I just cut it with my trimmer. And I am going to flip this card front over, and right below that bottom score line, I am going to place some score tape on that tab, only on that bottom tab. I'm going to remove the backer from this, and then I'm going to take this piece of 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 inch Nina Solar White heavyweight cardstock, and I'm going to line the bottom up with that tab and make sure it's centered on the card front and press that in place. Now that gives me the pull tab for my interactive portion of the card, and it's super easy to put together. Now you could just put this on your card front and be done, but I want to make it more complicated. And I want to make it super fun with a shaker portion underneath. So I'm going to take some acetate. I'm going to cut it to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and I'm going to use this to create a shaker window on the card base. Now, in order to do that, I want a double layer of foam adhesive behind my acetate. So I am taking my roll of foam adhesive and I am folding it over on itself to create a double layer here. And then I'm going to trim that into thin strips. Now, when you create a shaker card, a lot of times we create them on the card front. This time I am building my shaker window up from the card base. So it's a little bit different, but it's not complicated at all. Once I get that double layer of foam adhesive, that long skinny strip cut, I'm going to go ahead and coat the sides of this. It still has the backer on it with some powder tool, and that's just going to take away a little bit of the extra stick and keep my shaker guts from sticking to the walls of the shaker window. And then I can remove the backer, and I'm going to place this right along the edge of that piece of acetate that I've cut down. Now this acetate is slightly smaller than that card front that's created with that slider surprise die. And when I place this foam adhesive around the edges, I want to make sure that all of the corners are touching so that nothing that I put inside will leak out. We don't want leaky guts. It's not a good look. So now I'm going to build my shaker portion. I have my acetate ready. It has the double layer of foam adhesive around the edge, and I'm going to add my shaker guts right onto my card base. I'm keeping them right in the center of my card base, so when I place my adhesive onto the card base, those shaker components are not going to get in my way. And I'm going to take and I'm going to remove the backer of this foam adhesive, but I'm only doing it about halfway down each strip. That's going to allow me to kind of have some handles and make sure I have this positioned centered on my card base. And then I can go ahead and remove the rest of that backer once I get it placed down. So I'm going to take this acetate, I'm going to place it in the center of my card base, and then like I said, I can just remove the rest of the backer of the foam adhesive. That kind of gives me a little less tack to work with if I had to move it around. And then I'm just going to go around and I'm going to press all of this foam adhesive in place onto my card base. Make sure it's all sealed so that all of those shaker components that are in the center are like caught. They're trapped right inside of that shaker window. So now it's time to add the card front, and I'm just going to add some adhesive around the edges of this card front that we created using the Slider Surprise Die-namics. I'm going to make sure that my adhesive is not interfering with that white piece of cardstock that we're using for our slider pull tab. And if I were to go back and do this again, I would use a single layer of foam adhesive here. It would make it so much easier to slide up and down, but this honestly was my first go at it, and you live and you learn, right? So it will add more bulk to the card, but I think it will make it slide a little bit easier. So there you have it. That is the bulk of what we need to do to create a Slider Surprise shaker card, and I think this is so much fun. The other thing that I might do differently if I were to do this again is trim down the top of that acetate just a tiny bit more, because it is kind of like hanging out a little bit more than I'd want it to on that tab. So if I had it to do over again, I might trim that acetate down just a little bit more. But like I said, you live and you learn. So I've taken some textured turquoise cardstock. I've blended on some peacock feathers. I'm going to die cut a heart from that. And I'm also going to use some Neenah Solar White heavyweight cardstock. And I'm going to use this Hello Die-namics, and I'm going to die cut that, as well as the My Favorite Things Skinny Strips Die-namics set. That's a great sentiment strip set there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to die cut this Hello 3 times. And on the very top one, I am going to just blend on a little bit of worn lipstick right along the bottom of this, just to give it a little bit. I guess I'm just an ink blending fool today. Because normally ink blending is not something I do a whole lot of. But I just added a little bit of color along the bottom of that. And then I'm going to stack these up using a little Zig 2-way glue adhesive pen. Now for my sentiment, I am using the My Favorite Things Well Hello stamp set, and I'm using the sentiment that says Beautiful Gorgeous Girl, and it coordinates beautifully with the Hello Die-namics. And I think that this sentiment is just perfect. I mean, who wouldn't want a card that says Hello Beautiful Gorgeous Girl? And to me, it just went so well with that kind of mermaid inspired theme here. So I'm adding a little foam adhesive to the bottom lower portion of this heart. Now I want it only to be adhered to that bottom bigger panel, not the tab, but the panel. I don't want any adhesive overlapping that center score line, because it will interfere with the movement of my slider portion. So I've just made sure that the heart is only adhered to that bottom panel or below the middle score line. And I want to make sure the point of my heart, the bottom of my heart, does not overlap the lower score line so that it doesn't get bent. And I've gone ahead and adhered my sentiment strip and my little Hello die cut there. And when I got this all together, I thought this was it, but it felt like it needed something else. So I die cut a vellum heart, and then I added this banner strip right across the center so that I could cut it in half and have two pieces of this heart that I could slide above and below the sentiment strip that's already in place. And I just wanted to show you that quick tip because it looks like the heart is whole and underneath this sentiment strip, but it's not. That's a secret between me and you. So it's just time for some finishing touches now, and I'm taking this Hello Die-namics again, and I'm just die cutting it from some computer paper to make a mask for myself. I am going to use this and just place it over that hello. I should have probably done this before I even put it on the card, but I didn't think about it. And I'm going to take some Stickles glitter glue. This is the Stardust Stickles. I'm just running a line right on that computer paper. And then I'm using my finger to actually just swipe it up onto the very bottom of this die cut. This is a way of adding just a little swipe, kind of like a dry brush effect of glitter along this die cut. And the mask protects the rest of the card from getting stickles on it. So that finishes up my Slider Surprise Shaker card today. As I said, it's a little stiff to move because I don't have foam adhesive adhering that card front onto the shaker window. If I did it again, I would add another layer of foam adhesive and not worry about it. But I wanted to show you it's a perfect place to hide a gift card. Even without the foam adhesive, the gift card just slides right in there. And these Slider Surprise cards can also be used for gift cards, for hidden scenes or hidden sentiments or a hidden written message. And they're so much fun and really easy to put together. And I have to say, interactive cards are some of my favorite to give, and I love them even more when they're simple to put together like these Slider Surprise cards are. As always, you will find links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube, but head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. And as I mentioned before, I am sharing a more simplified version of the Slider Surprise card over on the My Favorite Things YouTube channel today, so you can check that out. Now, I did want to show you that I created a card using that, what I wouldn't consider necessarily a failed background, but just something that wasn't quite right for the card I was creating. And you can see that here. It still has the mermaid vibes. I used the mermaid tail background stamp on that heart, but you see that I used a lot of the same products and created a much different look here. And I love this card as well. So there you have it, 2 cards with a mermaid-inspired theme, a Hawaiian-inspired color palette, and a whole lot of fun, and these have me definitely dreaming of Hawaii at this point. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. If you want to subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.